Welcome to season 2 of the Energy Upgrade podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa, master biohacker and successful entrepreneur. In season 1 of the Energy Upgrade, you got to have a taste for my obsession in all things health, energy, entrepreneurship, spirituality, and biohacking, or how to take radical responsibility in living a life by design. As a certified health coach, integrated health practitioner, kinesiologist, and seasoned entrepreneur who built and sold a 7-figure business, I want to dive deeper in this season 2. After healing myself from burnout, from my health falling apart, my hormones leaving my body, I'm here to share everything I wish someone had told me. Every day, I have the incredible opportunity to be mentoring women and supporting them in becoming true magnetic energy bombs. I'm helping them remember who they were all along. It's so powerful that I want to take you in on the journey, almost as if you were a fly on the wall. You'll find that I'm not your typical health coach, and I'm not your typical business coach either. I'm somewhere in between with a lot of spirituality sprinkled in there. This podcast is a sacred place where I come and share with you things that will bring you a high return on investment, because yes, I'm all about ROI. Life goes fast, and if I can show you a shortcut or two, I'll have succeeded at bringing you value. Thank you for being here. Let's go.
Your time is now. Your energy is your life force. You want to be able to magnetize your wildest dreams. A liver detox is the fastest way to start healing. You can and you will.
Welcome back to another episode of the Energy Upgrade. This is your host, Vanessa Grutman, and today I have a wonderful guest joining us. Her name is Janine Deanna. She is a life coach and a woman empowering women, and it's super interesting how her and I got to connect. In fact, how I got to learn about her is through her participation to my recent event called The Mask that I hosted back in March this year. Now, if you were with us during The Mask, you may remember that this event was quite a deep adventure, much deeper than I usually do in a free event. And Janine just so happened to see the ad for it. She signed up for it, didn't really know what to expect. And turns out it was literally quite revealing for her. Now, she decided to openly share her journey on her platform. And that's how her and I got connected. And that's how I got to learn about how impactful this event had been for her. Now, I asked her if she would be willing and vulnerable enough to come and share all the breakthroughs that she had with all of you today. Now, why is this important? I do believe that more women need to talk about some of their healing, some of their breakthroughs, some of their realization, because this will show you that you're not alone. That you're not alone having these thoughts, these reflections, these contemplations. You're not alone to be feeling how you're feeling. And Janine was so generous in her share today. I know that this will really, really impact you and probably move you as well. Now, a little bit more about her, because we share a similar history of having gone through burnout. But what's interesting is Janine has been in entrepreneurship for 22 years. She's worn many hats, from honing her salon to thriving as an international wedding photographer, which of course in 2020 wasn't really the best way to earn a living when the whole world shut down. And so that's really when she really pivoted her business to online coaching for female entrepreneurs. And she specialized in time organization, goal design, and healthy productivity. She's certified life coach as well as NLP. She empowers women to design lives that prioritize what truly matters. Her work is grounded in taking radical responsibility to intentionally create a purpose-driven life. So, of course, there is a lot of overlapping between our beliefs, between our visions, and also because we've both experienced what it meant to live a life out of alignment and to break free from the hustle culture to create a pace that allowed us to prioritize core values. And for her, this was a pivotal moment when her dad passed, and she will share more during the episode. Now, I know that this is going to be a really personal podcast, and I hope that it will help you really see that you're not alone, and that's a-okay to have these thoughts. Even at 40 plus years old, we haven't been taught to have them, and now is the time to allow more healing in our body, in our soul, and in our mind. So let's go and let's dive in with Janine. Janine, thank you so much for being here on the Energy Upgrade today. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
I appreciate that you said yes. I appreciate that we connected during the Mask, which was an event I did back in March. And you recently shared, publicly how this event had, really touched you and helped you in your own healing journey. And I thought, wow, this is so beautiful. And you had such an interesting lens on it. And I thought, everybody needs to hear this. So I'm excited that you said yes to being vulnerable and having this deep conversation
Yeah.
about inner child and healing and all the things. But,
Yeah.
First of all, I want to hear you because, you went from being this international wedding photographer traveling the world in what looks like the most glamorous job to, becoming a coach for female entrepreneurs, really diving into the concept of time. And we'll talk about that later. But, talk to me about this transition and how that happened for you.
The transition was handed to me on what I didn't know at the time was a little bit of a gold platter. It did not seem like that when the world had its shut down and we were in the process of doing a lot of traveling and shooting a lot of weddings. Our schedule was immediately cleared, and there was the little bit of the backup to that was I'd been shooting 20, 30 weddings a year and been on the road all the time. And with two teens who were just getting older and had so much on the go, I was really starting to feel that inner resistance of being gone so much. It really started to feel every time it felt harder and harder to leave. And the hindsight is that I was in burnout at that point, but I didn't know because we're just moving so quickly. There was so much going on at the time. And when the world shut down and we had this opportunity, I had been starting to do a little bit of coaching on the side. So I've always been an entrepreneur, and I had some really lovely women kind of ask me, how are you doing this? How's this kind of, and it got to the point where I started doing a little bit of one-on-one coaching on the side, mentorship, I was calling it at the time. And when everything shut down, I thought, okay, this is something that had been brewing on the side. So it's this opportunity. I'm just going to lean in hard to this. So I kind of took what I built as far as building the wedding photography business and put it all in this course called Simplify to Clarify and just launched it. And it was really successful because everybody was at home.
Everybody was online.
Yep. Everybody was like, ooh, we can still connect. And this is a way that we can do this. So I had ran it 7 times, just back to back to back. And it was really, really fun. And as I ran it though, every time I would tweak it a little bit, and all the tweaks lined up with, we got to go deeper. We got to go deeper. There's more going on here. And I started to realize that a lot of the work we were doing was not getting to the root or the kind of the honesty behind why we were having struggles within our business in the first place. So I stepped back from that. And in the period of being able to step back from that, what I also did was started a mastermind, and I ran that for a couple years where it was exclusively this group of 15 women. And we would meet every Monday. And the mastermind was one of the most beautiful things. The connection and the vulnerability and the ability for women to come into this and be completely vulnerable, share the struggles with entrepreneurialism, but then lean into the structure of the mastermind, which was every Monday we would meet, and we'd meet weekly to plan our weeks, and we would go through time blocking. We would go through quarterly setting things up. It ultimately started as a vision for your life, and then we broke it down to quarterly visions, to monthly visions, to weekly habits, to daily. It just went all the way down, and it was just about ultimately how are we spending our time, and are we using it to move towards cultivating this life that is based around the foundational piece of our core values, or I call them guiding principles. Core values seems to be a little bit more widely understood, but the things that mattered most to us. And in the process of doing all that, we really discovered that a lot of us were quite disconnected from these core values, and quite unfamiliar with what we actually needed. And we were very influenced. Our existence, or the businesses we were created, were very influenced by, I should be doing this, should be doing that. I saw so-and-so doing that. I need to, I should. And not from a place of I get to. Like, the energy was so reactive, and it wasn't from a place of authority. It wasn't from a place of getting to truly build a beautiful life, because those things matter to us. And I know we'll get into this, but I was just seeing how disaligned a lot of this stuff was. So fast forward to at the end of 2022, I wrapped up my third year of masterminding, and my dad had got diagnosed with lung cancer and then died the next January. And that was the process of him passing away happened at the same time that I would have been launching my next mastermind. So the timing was, I just stepped away. My parents had been married for 50 years, so it was very hard on my mom. She wasn't able to help a lot during that time. So a lot had fallen on me to kind of transition a lot of stuff through that time. So when all that was done, I just shut down completely. And I didn't realize how burnt out I was until I got to just stop. And so that was kind of the, us Canadians like to call it the TSN turning point, like where everything kind of stopped and everything was like, okay, that was the most, and the pivotal thing I have to mention here was watching my dad pass away. He hung on to every last minute he had, and time was everything. Every minute you had, everything was so visceral. Like, time just took on this. I didn't have language for it. Like, it was so overwhelming. Every minute mattered so extensively that once you see that and you go back to normal life, you don't see time the same. The reverence that I have for time is the number one thing in my life. Like, how am I in relationship with time? And to know how to be in better relationship with time, I had to have such radical responsibility and ownership of what do I want my life to look like outside of being influenced from the noise. Just collectively, we'll just call it the noise. So that started this journey of getting certified with a couple different ways to connect with women deeper and to safely take them to places that it allows us to address what's at the root cause of why we think we have to be busy all the time, and why we should ourselves to death of trying to do all the things, why there's shame around slowing down, why there's shame around not doing all the things, or not looking a certain way, or doing things a certain way. And it just, because it holds you captive. It just holds you. So I loved one of the things, a takeaway that I made a little sticky note, was that perfectionism is like a prison. It just holds you prisoner. So where I'm at now, that's a nice long story to getting into a place where now I do a lot of one-on-one coaching where I'm just helping women at, and when we were talking about that entry, my foundational entry to everything I do is, what are your core values? What are your guiding principles? Because everything stems from what really matters to you, and how do we protect that? How do we build a schedule and a business and a life vision that you're constantly compelled to move towards from a place of real self-integrity, like that you feel that you have that ability to take full control and have full agency over yourself to create a life that you love. And I think this work, why I was connected, or why I saw the ad on Instagram. That was how I had found it. So good job. That worked really great. And I saw you talking about this, the mask and the language around needing to remove this and coming home to a part of us, this inner child that, hey, I have some things, some wisdom. I have some wisdom here. And if you just make some space, if you just get quiet, if you just use some of your ability to quiet the noise and come back, I can share some magnificent things with you. So it was beautiful. And it was at the time when I was getting my additional training, it was just the cherry on top of giving me the language to be able to understand and speak more clearly and more confidently about, oh, this is okay. We're doing these activations. We're coming back. I felt like this was the cherry on top for me, because I had started this journey after losing my dad. I'd started this journey of wanting to be more consciously and intentional and deliberate about the life I was living. Like it just wasn't an option to not do that anymore. So it's like I can't keep wearing the masks, but I don't know what to do now that I'm taking them off. Because
Yeah.
as you had said so beautifully, it's sensitive. Like it's
Oh
really sensitive.
gosh.
We could get into all that, but that's what like kind of brought me into your world, where I was like, yes, I'm already on this journey. And she's talking about the things that women, and I have to say this too, I'm so glad you're talking about this, because you said nobody's talking about it. And I'm over here like, yes, not enough people are talking about why we get to these struggles in the first place. Like we're just trying I can help you plan a week and a month, a whole year out. I get geek out, and I would love to do that. But you won't step into showing up for that if you're not actually aligned with why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
So,
Oh, well, there's a reason why you were attracted. There's a reason why you came in my universe. There's a reason why we're having this conversation. And
mhm,
there's so much overlap around our stories of, burnout and not realizing we're in it, and just, pushing, 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 doing the next thing, and just like, almost that shiny object. And I love what you mentioned about, you know, comparing ourselves and, oh my gosh, they're doing that, I should be doing this,
yeah,
instead of like, what do I want to do? And I get to do this, completely
yeah,
shifting the perspective. It's such a beautiful way.
yeah,
And it's interesting because that's how the mask, was channeled through me, is looking at my own clients in the work we do, and
mhm,
seeing how a lot of them were actually trapped in their business because it was completely built with
mm,
a fake version of themselves, a
wow,
version of themselves. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, because I've done this also, but really a version of us that's completely disconnected. And what I've realized is when I try to reconnect people, it's hard. We
mhm,
have like, nobody knows how to do it. And it's a journey. There's no quick fix. There's no quick
yeah,
pill you can take for this. It's like a journey within. And
yeah,
that's scary, because
yeah,
and what's interesting, and like we have these tools in us, these tools, whether we've acquired them, in a previous life, or I don't know, like but there's a remembrance, like even you,
yeah,
the way you said, the language you use, there was a remembrance in you that you're like, gosh, it feels like I know this. It feels
yeah,
like, it's hard to put your finger on it,
mhm,
but you were attracted to,
yeah,
hear more. And, this, yeah. So the mask came through because I just noticed that every single high achieving woman that comes in my universe comes in with this pretending version of themselves.
mhm,
They have, and that's what I'm finding their healing has to go through. It's this huge battle between their intellectual mind, which
yeah,
is like, A plus, amazing, like in the
Mm-hmm.
1%, like high
Yeah.
achieving, high performing. But here they are having their heart in a block of cement, wanting, trying to crack open.
Yeah.
And there's this inner battle going on constantly of
Yeah.
like the heart, the mind, the heart, the mind. And that's when they start making the wrong decisions,
Yeah.
and that's when the nervous system starts breaking down. And I often talk about burnout. That is the pathway of burnout. It doesn't
Yes.
have to do, it's really this misalignment and not listening to what the heart and soul wants to
Yeah.
do. So in
Yeah.
the mask, we talked about, okay, who are you if we take the mask off? The mask that we all get put on when we are
Yeah.
young, and this is nobody's fault. Like we all go through this, every
Yeah.
single human being. At one point, we're being put on either like the good girl mask or like, don't speak too loud or don't, laugh so hard or don't sing everywhere, or don't, whatever it is, everybody has their own version.
Yeah.
And just to fit in at a young age, which is our most important um, need, is to actually be loved and by our parents and feel
Yeah.
safe and feel like we're belonging.
Yeah. Accepted. Yeah.
And so if we don't have the mask, we might not fit in. They might not love us, and that's
Hmm.
scary. And usually that happens, when we're 5 or 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Um, but what's really hard is when we try to go back to that moment in time when that mask was put on.
Yeah.
Most of us, a lot of women I work with, have absolutely no recollection, no memories of that time,
Yeah.
because it's usually a small or a big trauma. Like we were
Right.
saying, it could be like an abuse, something absolutely terrible, violence
Yeah.
in the home, or it could also be just someone shouted something in the schoolyard and you didn't like how you felt
Yeah.
in that moment.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could ramble on and on, but I'd love to hear your perspective of this and maybe some of your own breakthroughs, knowing that you had already done some work.
Mhm. I have to say one of the biggest takeaways that I had from this when I was kind of going back over my notes was how collective of a human experience this is, that nobody gets away with not having a moment of splitting where the ego's got to take over and say, I'll keep you safe. And I have to say, going through the videos multiple times, the thing that stuck to me after was compassion for my ego. Like I always
Mhm.
thought about it as so I would always
Bad.
refer to it as bad, always.
Mhm.
And this is the first experience I've had, Vanessa, where I was like, oh, it's keeping me safe. This is keeping me safe. Even if it doesn't make sense, it makes sense for a part of me that needs to be a certain way in order to be accepted. So I have all this grace for my ego now that feels calming. So this is a huge takeaway because I would
Massive.
fight my ego so much, like disgust. Like that's how I felt, disgust, when I would think about parts of like, oh, that's my ego showing up. And I would have this very animated disgust. And I'm like, oh, hi, you. You're here, you're trying to help me and keep me safe. Okay. And I think this the hard part, like I was sharing in the stories when I had shared this work, is it's like, okay, so you get brave enough to think, I'm going to take the masks off. And it's not one typically.
Yeah,
I'm not
there's
going to
more than
speak for
when.
others, but I'm just pulling them off left, right, and center,
Yeah.
seeing them, right? But when you take it off, I think what you also said so beautifully, it's like decades of wearing a different persona of I have to be this way. And we believe that with conviction. We have to be this way. It's not safe. Have we ran it all the way through? Have we asked what's at 42? Have I said to myself, what's actually going to happen if I follow this all the way through? And I think that's part of the work of healing at this point for me, is saying, here's this belief that I have about I have to wear this mask to be accepted. If I don't have this on, I'm not safe. Okay, let's dig in. What happens? And I always do this exercise with myself, with my clients, where I keep going, and then what?
Chase the
And then
fear.
what?
Yes.
And then what? And then what? And if that happened, could I handle it? This version of me, after everything I've been through, without question, okay, okay. So are we still afraid of this, or do we need to update the fear, update the understanding, update the story, update the identity to match my current position of power, of authority, of where I'm not that little girl anymore? So this was beautiful to do. Like I said, have the conversation. I was just like, yes, somebody's talking about this. Let's dig into this. And then, but I think why a lot of people aren't brave enough to talk about it is because it's messy. There's no like nice, clean box that what happens or what we uncover fits into.
Yeah.
There's
Or like
no,
step ABC.
yeah,
This is how,
no,
no, because we don't know once we take it
we
off.
don't
We don't
know.
know
No.
what's going to be
And
shown.
it's not lineated in any way. Like it's 5 steps, 5 steps forward, 10 steps back,
Oh,
two
yeah.
steps forward. But when you're gracious enough with yourself to say, I'm going into this with that understanding, when you can manage the expectations of what it looks like to like excavate these parts of us, then it allows more grace. Like it genuinely does. And I think the more healed I get, the safer I feel to go back into these moments. And I've also learned a lot about being disassociated with the situation, but being safe to go back in an associated way, but I'm not fully associated. So I'm
Mhm.
able to safely go back and have these conversations. So my experience was the first day I loved it because I answered those questions, and I would love to share in case it's helpful for anybody listening, the mask, because I sat down and was like,
I've done
oh,
this before.
yeah. Which
Yeah.
I think is the worst. Anytime something is like visceral for you, I always feel it in here, like right around my heart, like this is calling you to dig deeper. I've learned to listen to that. Okay. I've done this, but let's dig a little bit deeper. So I wrote down those questions. What masks have I been wearing was the first one you asked. And the second one was, who have I become, or what patterns and behaviors are evidence, which is such a great follow up question because that was how I was able to look at the mask. So I couldn't do it without that question of what behaviors and patterns are happening. So the three masks that I was throughout that day, I just kind of was sitting with it and I kept coming back was I called it the shapeshifter was the first one. I just that was the
I love
language
that
that
you
came
branded
out.
them.
I
Yes,
gotta make
love
it
it.
sexy somehow.
Exactly.
Well, not that we're trying to make these masks sexy in any way, but understanding it, I was like, that this visually helps me see, like, yeah, every new environment I walk into, it's not, hi, this is me, this is what I bring. It's shoot, really like who does everybody need me to be? And what's the energy here? And who needs me to be? I gotta be quiet. I need to be a little bit louder. I need to put myself out there more. I need to pull myself back. And it is exhausting.
Oh
And you
gosh.
don't realize when we think about how did I get in burnout? Burnout is not working too hard. It's working out of alignment. It's being so out of alignment with, yes, working hard can burn you out. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that there's these slow leaks that sink a mighty ship when your subconscious energy is on overdrive and you're not even connected to how much work it takes to put the mask on and be the thing. So the beautiful part about this, which I realized after I did, was that I realized there were aspects of me or parts of me that wear the mask that other parts of me don't. So this was very interesting, but I'll come back to that because the other mask I had, which I think is very relatable and I've done the most work on in the past, is the need to seem perfect.
Yeah.
Perfectionism. And I did a whole group study on perfectionism. I think it's funny how we don't really know what being a perfectionist means. It means I don't want you to see me vulnerable. I don't want to
Hmm.
see, I don't want it. And there's ego attached when we call ourselves perfectionists because I like everything perfect. And this was me. So I'm not pointing fingers, but I would run around calling myself a perfectionist all the time. And it was this excuse as to why I didn't follow through with things or why I didn't fully show up to things because it's not going to be perfect. And there was this little chip of ego associated with it, where the truth was, I'm scared to be fully seen by you because if you don't want, accept, think I'm worthy, that's really going to hurt. So I'm just going to put up my shield of perfectionism and say, it's not quite perfect. I can't put it out there. And that this was very evident patterns, bringing things to 3/4 finished. My Canva is a
Mm.
is a graveyard of 3/4 finished. These amazing things that are sitting in there that I'm too afraid to, because once it's finished, I got to put it out there.
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh
it's not good
gosh, a lot
enough.
of people are going to relate with this. Yeah, I would say,
Yeah,
perfectionism is so linked with, your nervous system also being in survival.
fight or flight.
It's a distraction. It really
Yes.
is. And it's a story we get to believe about ourselves. It becomes a
Hmm.
pattern. And that's
Yep.
100% linked with a mask for sure.
Yes. Yeah,
A
because
version of us.
a version of us.
Are you a woman entrepreneur with a real service to offer to the world, or an ambitious woman ready to build an authentic business around you and how you can impact the world? Or maybe a woman solopreneur tired of running in circle like a mad woman only to get okay results. If that's you, then let me tell you about Femme Biohacker, my high-level coaching program for women entrepreneurs that are ready to rise. Now, this is not your typical business coaching program. It is not your typical health coaching. It's a mix of spiritual, energetics, health, business, all the things. And it's so expensive. This is a very cutting edge coaching program designed over 12 months. And it's really there to support you with your big ambitions and help you put into the world to birth this new version of you with the support, the guidance, not only of myself, but also practical experts that are coming in the program to help you make sure that you are moving the needle. I also have this beautiful sisterhood, this beautiful community of women in there. It's so, so humbling to see the quality of the women in that program. I just love that space. Now, Femme Biohacker was really, really carefully crafted to enhance not only your health, but also amplify your business, your brand impact, all to help you access limitless success. Now, this is really for you if you're ready to level up not only your lifestyle, your brand, your values, but also attract your ideal clients by understanding the power of energetics and what you are calling into the world. If you're ready to shed and really, really shed light on your money story, your leadership, step back into your power, figure out what is your style, what is your real energy, your spirituality, what is your voice, and how can we do this, and how can we rise in a way that your nervous system feels supported, feels regulated, so that you can tap into infinite success, because yes, my dear, that is your birthright. Now, if you're interested in hearing more about Femme Biohacker, it's simple. The link is in the bio. You can also just DM me for more information. This is by application only. We're a small group of powerhouses that are willing to disrupt how we do business, we level up brands in this market. It's about feminine energetics. It's about learning to really, really honor our voice and our authentic power. If that's you, DM me for more information or book your appointment for an application. And I cannot wait to help you rise. Let's do this.
So, and then my last one was the victim. There's, but and this is, I see this often. I see this often. And I had said in my stories, and I'll say again, because I think it's worth repeating, that this is the hardest one, I believe, that I'm doing the work around it right now. And it's painful because things I've walked through, anybody looking from the outside in would be like, this was not your fault. This, like, you are a victim. Like, I would be like, it's okay that you see yourself. That is true. But that is so out of alignment with my guiding principle of radical responsibility. It doesn't fit right. I played a role in some level, and I need to know what it is, because as perfectionism can hold us captive, So does being a victim, if not
Oh,
more, if not more. So there's a lot of that floating around where we're not taking responsibility. And I giggled when like your ego is not gonna like me, and you kind of keep calling it out, but it's like we gotta say this truth. Like we have to have these conversations because if we're not getting to the root. We're not being
yeah.
honest with, but what was your role in this? And it's freeing. And
That's the
it's,
thing.
yeah, and it's the victim for me was beautifully tethered to forgiveness. It boomed. It went
Mm.
right into forgiveness. And I was like, well, this girl's got it figured out. The way this is all lineated, it was so powerful, Vanessa. I'm so grateful for you putting this out there because then it was, oh, we're moving into forgiveness. And I will say I have done a lot of forgiveness work because it's a whole module in the training that I'm doing. But the hardest person to forgive, hands down, is myself.
Oh gosh. Yes.
Myself. In all these areas that it's would just kind of open this door to like, okay, so this is a lot of what's keeping you right here is because you cannot forgive yourself for. And here's what's beautiful about that is in my again, how I'm learning to coach more deeper, I get to go back to these little girl versions of me or my teenage versions of me and say, I know you didn't know. I
Yeah.
can now see you didn't know. You didn't have the tools. And I'm going to finish this with um, this question with the this major takeaway from this whole thing for me was because again it was connected to this other work I was doing. It was this huge takeaway where I have like this compassion for people I never had before. Like compassion in a way that, oh, you're doing this, and this, and A, why is it bothering me? It's mirroring something in me that I need to say hello to. Okay. I'm viscerally feeling it again. Okay. But second of all, you're being this way because you don't have the tools. And I can forgive it or have more grace or have more compassion and see you with more tenderness because I'm not judging you anymore. I'm just seeing you as you got to do some mask work or you got
Yeah.
to, dig in. But I have this compassion and I mean it when I say it was over in a moment where I thought, oh, you don't know better. Cause I believe when we know better, we do better.
Of
As
course.
I believe that. So I
Yes.
look at people who do certain things and I think, what? Oh, and then it felt like the weight of the world was lifted, to be honest. I look at my kids the same way, and I'm trying to teach my kids this too, because I think it's a beautiful life changing. I do not say this lightly, life changing understanding to see other human beings with a level of compassion that you understand you have to facilitate for yourself. I have to learn how to have better emotional intelligence, be able to call things out, have radical responsibility in these situations. And that's the same for every human being. So that what I talked about, that collective human experience of we all split at some point to be safe. And at some point in our life, it comes back around for us to have a conversation and go deeper and start healing.
Like, oh, yes, exactly. There's so many things that you've mentioned that I want to try to loop back to, but that piece of forgiveness, sometimes I feel, and to me, where I was really able to feel that forgiveness, where it really clicked, was by revisiting younger versions of myself, because I had noticed that yes, I could, forgive myself here and now, but it was a lot of the stuff that happened in the past. And I
Mhm.
had some crystallized shame and guilt in my body. And it was really hard until I started actually bringing myself back into those moments and figuring out, like you said, this, like, I did this because I didn't know better. And this is exactly what I was being asked to do. And I
Mhm.
just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to be seen and
Yeah.
hugged. So how can you not have compassion for that? And
Yeah.
I think that's why this event was highly emotional for people. A
Yeah.
lot of tears were shed. And I know that when I say that, it's also, it's scary for a lot of women to go there because we haven't been experiencing with our feelings and emotions for
Yeah.
so long, and in fact, lifetimes.
Yes.
So it's like, how the heck am I going to go there?
Yeah.
And if, especially if we are wearing the mask of perfectionism, it's really hard to allow ourselves to be seen and be vulnerable and actually have a good cry, even if you're on
Mhm.
your own, believe it or not. Like,
Yeah.
even if you're on your own, nobody's looking at you, it's still hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really through, it's understanding that once you're able to pass through that, it's just liberation starts to happen.
Hmm.
Like, it's actually quite rapid. Like, look at you, you were able to have that breakthrough of like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm being a victim here. I'm playing small. I'm in this, old story pattern that's
Yeah.
just been serving me well up until now. Now I see it. I can't unsee it.
Hmm.
And boom, it dissolves, like
Yeah.
literally, because it doesn't have any ground anymore, any anchor points,
Yeah.
because you've seen it. It's like you caught the thief. You can't, you're like, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And so it goes away. And yeah, so it's just this work that can feel overwhelming and scary, but once
Yeah.
you really lean in, it's actually beautiful. When you're doing it the right way, also, we were talking how there's just
Yeah.
a lot of things out there that are, yeah, it's just it can go sideways pretty quick,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. And I think it's important to, I think, say again that part of the fear is it's so unknown. And we also are like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And we keep thinking there's a specific way to heal these taking off the mask. And I think that's the managing of the expectation that I had spoken about, where when you understand the only expectation is shedding light on a part that I'm afraid to engage with. But if I am honest with the life that I'm living because I refuse to acknowledge this, it's worse.
Exactly.
Maybe we don't totally understand that yet, but because a lot of times I could look back and say I'm actually more comfortable in the known discomfort than I am in the unknown discomfort. So I know my demons right now. I know how bad this is. This is familiar discomfort. I'll stay here. And so many people will stay in that even
Yeah.
though
Most
this is
human beings.
available. Yeah.
Totally. And
Yeah.
we think it's, only available to the lucky ones, and it's woohoo,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it can't be true. And because we want to feel so good in the comfort of the discomfort, we want to
Hmm.
normalize it, feel better in it, even though every single cell of our being
Yeah.
is like screaming for attention, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is a lot, signs that you may need to do this kind of work are, you're feeling like there is something that wants to emerge. There's like, it's like you're ready to give birth, but you have no idea what the heck needs to come out.
Mm,
You're like, there's something that's like, you can, for me, I was almost feeling like my skin was stretching, like I was a snake. Like there was a part of me that actually physically needed to be removed. It was
yeah.
like stronger than me. I couldn't avoid it anymore. Or I just felt like there was almost like always something like a weight
Yes.
on
Yeah.
me that I couldn't figure out. Like I was eating well and exercising and doing all the thing, yet
Hmm.
I still was feeling tired and, like
Yeah.
lack of flow and just, and then the other thing is actual dis-ease in the body,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
fatigue, hormone breakdown, burnout, like any physical symptoms,
Yeah.
guaranteed there is an emotional and somatic component attached to it. So
Absolutely.
when you allow yourself to dive deep, do the work, connect with that inner child, do so much healing. And, I always say, bring your inner child on your lap, literally, and just like have conversations in your
Yeah.
meditation and, what do you think about this? Does that feel like a good thing? Can we have fun with this? Yes. Okay, let's go. No, actually, that doesn't feel right.
Hmm.
Okay, well, actually, let me think further on this. Like really
Yeah.
having this
Dialogue.
reconnection
Yeah.
because you can actually merge back with your soul literally when
Yeah.
you do this. And then, some people are like, oh, it just looks so easy for you. Yeah, yeah, I had to do this work. But once you
Yeah.
reconnect with the soul, now I'm not saying it's always perfect. There's going to be moments, of course, and
Yeah.
every day I get triggered still.
Yes. Yes.
But now I have the tools. I know what is home.
Yeah. Oh, just like that is the journey home.
Yeah.
Now I know what is home because I think that that is the reason why a lot of people don't dig into this work is because we're so disconnected from what it feels like to be home within ourselves. You're going to know. I can't tell you, Vanessa can't tell you, nobody's going to tell you what it feels like. You just have a moment where a peace falls over you that, and this is where for me the tears come. I can cry at the drop of I cry I cry every day something is like a commercial or my kids look at me like it's just like, oh, I just want to, you just come back to a place of feeling
Love.
beauty and love, and it, nobody can tell you what you just feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it. And if can I share with you what my activation was, like
Yes.
what my experience was with this? And I have this because this is my picture that stays with me all the time. My dad loved taking pictures, so I have this beautiful five
I
by
love it.
seven
And I have
of
one still
myself.
on my phone. It's like
Yes,
my
comes everywhere. Which I love. And I have to say this, I loved what you had said because somebody had said something about putting it on their phone screen, and you said, don't become numb to it. Don't become numb to
Mhm.
it because, and switch it around, move it around. I cannot um, agree with that enough. Even if I do the same if I have like quotes or inspirational things, I have to move them to re-engage,
Yeah.
to pattern disrupt and come back and be like, oh, so she moves around our house, and my family thinks it's quite funny. Where's little Janine this week? And anyways, the activation was really beautiful because I had been already doing some inner child stuff. So it wasn't foreign to me to go find her. But immediately when I went into this activation, I was in a very dense forest with 100-year-old trees that were so tall, and it was like I was surrounded by all this wisdom and beauty, and then the sun was beaming, like peeking in from the roof of this forest, and I was walking along and there was just lovely music playing, and I was walking along this very barefoot in a white dress in this very narrow path, and I'm walking along, and then I realize the music I'm hearing is my little 10-year-old self singing. So she's down there singing, and my mom made me dresses all the time growing up. So she's barefoot too, is swinging in her dress and playing and dancing and singing. I loved to sing as a child. And I watched her, and I just crouched down and I watched, and I had realized I had like my first kind of like full butt, like whoa, like the ugly
Tears.
overcry, where it was just like I miss play. My life has been so serious, so serious. Step one, I'm acknowledging I need more fun, more play. Okay. And I just sat and watched her, and that was so beautiful to see myself having fun without all the heaviness. It was just light and it was play. It was fun. So I finally got up and I walked towards her, and then I felt overwhelmed again. So I crouched down, and this was so weird to me. I crouched down, and all of a sudden I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. And I felt something on my right shoulder. So I stood up and I took 2 steps forward and I turned around, and there was this beautiful white wolf with like glowing, like, and nothing has ever, this was fully new for me, seeing this giant, beautiful wolf. And the crazy part was I wasn't afraid. I was immediately comforted. Like, oh, like I felt safe all of a sudden. This giant wolf. And I was like, you're beautiful. And so I obviously dug into what is this? What does a giant white wolf mean? And it was so cool because it was all about um, warrior and protectiveness. And it was so cool.
Leader of the pack.
Leadership. Yeah, leadership. It was so cool. So I stood up and I went to myself and she turned around and looked at me. There were no words exchanged this whole time. No words were exchanged. I didn't even feel the need to talk, but I just
No.
crouched down and I was sitting like crisscross applesauce in my little, and I just watched her and she just kept playing and then acknowledged that I was there. And that was fun and fine. And then she just kept playing. And then she came over and sat on my lap, and the wolf just sat behind, like snuggled in. I could feel the heat, I could feel the protection. It was like I was so safe in this moment. And little me came and sat on my lap, and we just sat and looked at each other. And she kept holding my face with her little hands. And then we just sat in this, and there were these moments. And then I hugged her so tight, just like you had talked about, that she just became a part of me. And it was so effortless. Like it felt like a hug I could never put words to ever. But that was what happened, was this hug turned into this like what? And then I just felt like I was glowing, like literally glowing. And I stood up and I was so comfortable to just leave. There was no sadness. There was no um I want to more of her, come back to her. It just felt so finalized. And to jump forward, I have not been able to go back to her because I keep getting this, she's already in you.
Yeah.
It's
Why
already
would
in
you
you.
need to? It's done.
Well, right. But I kept thinking, like, oh, that was so visceral. And so I need to go back. And it's like, no, you don't. But
No.
I needed to go back to realize I didn't need to go back
Yes.
because I can't find her anymore because she's already in me. So it was like I just cried and cried and cried. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was so beautiful and so healing and empowering in a way that was like, I now have done the work and I have all the tools. We're okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. So it was beautiful. It was just
Oh,
beautiful.
oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing this. This was powerful.
Mm,
Um, and that's why I love doing activations when I do events like this, especially when we go this deep,
yeah.
because at one point your brain is just like information overload. What do I do with this? And
Mhm.
how do I like, now that I know this, how do I go about my life? Because you can't, like I said, you can't unknow what you've known. And the best way is to actually just bring it in the body, right? Like you
Mm,
felt. And, you know, I don't know, but the first intuitive hit that came to me when you talked about the wolf is, you know, ancestors and you're like a grandmother lineage. Like, I don't know,
mm.
that's what it feels to me like this wolf was, you know, just and I don't know your history there, but
Interesting.
just like yeah, some protection, some safety, some like you're good, some grounding, you know.
Mhm.
Also animals are grounding. They're just
Right.
they have so much wisdom. And of course the wolf, it's like but the wolf holds a lot of duality because the wolf is also quite lonely.
Yeah. Lone wolf.
So
Yeah.
but I love that it was big and glowy and you know that
Yeah.
it snuggled. That means it wasn't scared and so
Yeah.
it's all just so beautiful. Yes, that was
Yeah.
I'm so glad you felt that because that was the intention and just to take the edge off of all this like healing talk. Oh, and now you can see why
Yeah.
this event that was only 4 days long, okay,
Yeah.
is now a prerequisite for anybody that enters my world. They have
Hmm.
to watch the mass before we even start our work because
Yeah.
this is too important. This is too important to skip. And, you know, now I'm sure since there's probably been synchronicities in your life, opportunities, signs, things that have shown up in
Mm,
your life, because that's what happens when you start going back inwards, realigning, merging back with your soul. Then suddenly the universe is like, I got you, my dear. I see you. You're
yeah.
doing the work, right? Because the universe can only respond whenever we do a step.
Yeah.
Whenever we're paralyzed into the perfectionism and when we're not actually showing up, well, nothing can, you're not an energetic match
Yeah.
for anything because you're not doing anything. You're being stalled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now that you've done this massive work and you went back to it and you're really all in, like I'm sure things are like rapidly unfolding for you.
I just, I think I have to touch on the point because I think it's so important where you said this is like people coming into your world have to do this because I feel like no matter what you try to do, it always comes back to this work. Like we can make progress in other areas, but not in that fluid way, not in a way that's like, oh, God says, universe, we're aligned. We're aligned. It's go time. Like open the gates, let's let stuff flow. And it has interestingly it just feels like an openness to me at this point, like an openness of where do I want to take this? Where do I, and it's how it's manifesting, I guess, in my or changing is I'm restructuring all my offerings because I'm just like this
Is not you
realization.
anymore.
No, it's like when you know
Exactly.
better, you do better, right? So now we got to realign a few things to kind of um hopefully shed more light and have more of these conversations around yes, it's scary, but it's the best thing you can do. And it's not, and the gift that gets to happen in your life, the openness that gets to happen, the connection to yourself that gets to happen when you do this work will far outweigh that initial fear of kind of coming home to yourself. And I think it's why a lot of people struggle with this because the when it has been your identity for so long, this is like identity revamping, like saying, and when you revamp some of these things or you get back into alignment, whatever language works, that has an impact on your current reality. And
Hmm.
sometimes that can be the difficult part, meaning I had to let friendships go in my life and it was painful, but it was necessary. Um, there then comes the next actionable steps, right? Like,
There's a
yeah,
moment of transition for sure.
yeah,
A lot of people wear a different mask when they're with their in-laws, when they're at work, when they're,
yeah,
and when you take that off and you show up as the true version of you that nobody's ever met,
yeah,
it creates some ripple, but have trust and faith that
yeah,
this is exactly what you're meant to be, like
yeah,
just shining your light and being who you are actually opens the door for more and gives people permission to be the
yeah,
same. So it's just beautiful work all around.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we could go on literally for hours. It feels like that's what we've
Mhm.
been going for. Where can people find you if they want to look at your beautiful universe?
I am at Janine Deanna on Instagram, and I had taken a lovely hiatus, so I'm just kind of starting to come back and re-engage with new
Yeah.
understanding. So Instagram is at Janine Deanna or JanineDeanna.com is my website where there's a lot of more practical information, I guess, there. And I would love if this impacted anyone in any way that I could share more. I just want to keep the conversation going, whatever that looks like, because as I said at the beginning, to reiterate again and again and again, this changes your human experience when you choose to step into coming home to yourself and saying, how you described it too. It's like there's something that's not right and I can't quite put my finger on it, but I got to do something because it doesn't feel right. Something is off. And I've heard that described a lot of times. So if you're feeling that kind of itch you can't scratch or just something isn't right, reach out to somebody who can kind of help walk you through what could be going on because there's so many gifts waiting. So many
Oh,
gifts waiting.
the best is yet to come, I
Yeah.
always say, right?
Yep.
I'm actually I'm going to offer if people want to just DM me mask, um I'll make the recordings available again. They weren't, but I'll make them available again because
Ooh,
now you're getting me all pumped about it again. Um
good.
and this was a free event. Okay, let's just like it's just a testament to when I'm
Yeah.
all in. I don't believe in like, don't give them all the secrets. And like, I just
Yeah.
go and I pour myself out and I kind of become almost like in transmission mode. Most of the time I end the recording, I have no idea what I said.
Oh, really? That's
I'm like,
fun.
I hope that
That's
this
cool
was
though.
good. I hope
Yeah.
this was good. What was meant to be said came out, and I'm just going to
Yeah.
trust it. But
It was
thank
good.
you so much. I really deeply appreciate how vulnerable you were, and I'm sure it's going to touch a lot of women and inspire them to kind of, look at themselves a bit differently and maybe lean in and
Yeah, I
find the
hope.
courage, because it takes courage. So
Yeah.
we're
Thank
going to
you.
put
Thank
all
you.
your links in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for your beautiful presence.
Thank
And
you.
I know we will see each other again lots on the internet.
Beautiful. Thank you.
The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grutman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.